Just recently, the largest event in the world just happened in Atlanta, Georgia. WCW, the World Championships of Warhammer. And we're going to talk about three individuals, what their army matchups were, and their three lists, and how they performed throughout this entire event. Is it our fault that World Eaters are not performing at the highest level? Or is it GW's fault? Do we need a break in points? Do we need extra rules? Do we need more data sheets? Find out here on Ops episode 27. Stay tuned. All right, so real quickly, I wanted to show everybody that this is the 2024 Warhammer 40,000 World Champions of Warhammer event, right? Going on. And this is the placing section. So I already did a keyword search for World Eaters players. And in number 13th place is Brian Daugherty. 65th place is Frasier Parry. And 161st place is Brian Lakor. Now, there is another section here, and Brian Lakor is a very good friend of mine, so shout out to him. Shout out to all the participants that were World Eaters players at this event for doing such a fantastic job and actually bringing World Eaters, which is seen to be a very subpar mono faction, right? So congratulations to these three individuals that we're going to talk about. But this is the regular placings. We're going to actually show you the overall placings where my bud over here, Brian Lakor, he had top overall because he had a higher overall score of 1.429. Brian Daugherty with 1.338 and Frasier with 1.213. All right. Fantastic job to all of these individuals at the event. And I'm going to show you all three of their lists, give you a small little synopsis of how their lists were different and how they were able to perform differently. You'll see in some of them, right, that were a little bit more 8-bound heavy, or they skewed in one direction. They did worse against certain matchups. Maybe they did worse against T-Suns, Necrons, Dark Angels, things like that. Usually the ones that people say that we can't perform well into. And you're going to see a couple of them who performed well into those armies with different lists from World Eaters. All right, so give me 1 second and we'll break down the Brian Daugherty first and show you everybody else's. All right, so the highest place individual, without going to overall, that had the most wins throughout the World Eaters, throughout the event. Once again, congratulations to Brian Daugherty. He had an amazing run. I was actually there. I was just spectating for the event. This year, it was just a little bit of a different role for me. But I had an amazing time. I saw all of my friends, all of my locals, things like that from around the world. And it's always a pleasure to see them. If you're listening, you're watching this, I saw you at the WCW. Much love. Hopefully you had a great time performing. And my friend was playing in the Grand Narrative, and he had a great time. So definitely my favorite event of the entire year, excluding the ones that I run myself, of course. But let's go ahead and break down Brian's list. And before we do that, right, let me go ahead and give you a little recap of what he fought against, how he performed points-wise, and his results. All right. So first off, he went against Sisters, 100 and a win. Chaos Space Marines, 55 points and a win. He went into Sisters again in round 3 for 89 points and a win. Round 4 into T-Suns, 91 points and a win. Round 5 was Sisters. He actually had a tie with Sisters in this one, even though he beat Sisters twice. Must have had a different list. And they did, right? So it was a little bit tougher for him. And he had a tie of 40 points. He beat Dark Angels 94 points for a win. He played Thousand Suns again 100 points for a win, and Necrons 56 points for a loss, which was his only loss in here. And we're going to go through the list and we're going to see exactly why he performed so well against Sisters and Thousand Suns and Dark Angels, and maybe why he didn't perform so well with Necrons. All right. So, and that could also be with gamesmanship. It can be with piloting, things like that, making mistakes throughout the game. But I assume this is a very high caliber player, just like the rest of the two that I'm going to mention as well. So maybe if they just didn't have the correct list for those matchups, it was all matchup, predicated on types of lists. So he has the Angry Red Gorillas. Obviously, this is a very conventional list, or close to a very conventional list. He had Angron, Lord Invul, right? And the Master of Executions, the Mo, of course, with the Berserker Glaive. You can't leave home without it, right? He had 2 units of Jackal, which is something that I run in all of my lists now. Jackals are just very staple. You want them to hold your objectives, stick to the objectives, right? So I know that helped him out a lot when it came to the Sisters and Thousand Suns and Dark Angels. Probably not so much with the Necrons because they can get across the board real quickly. But he also had the Berserkers. So he had 2 units of Berserkers, the kind of regular amount, which is a staple of what Anthony Vanilla used to run as well, was around 15 of them. So he had 1 unit of 10, 1 unit of 5, which I am surprised as well. He's not running with something to actually be attached to the unit of 5. I'm assuming he attached the 10, the Mo, to the 10. So the 5 is probably just going out there, creating havoc, flanking, things like that. That's how I would use it. He has 1 Rhino, so he's going to put the Mo and the 10 Berserkers in there. He has 2 units of just regular 8-bound, which are still fantastic. They have the flat 3 damage on the Lacerators, so you always want to take those. And then you have 2 units of Exalted, 1 unit of 3, and 1 unit of 6, which is quite common and using World Eaters lists like this, and Chaos Spawn, which are just absolutely amazing. Probably the best unit in the entire dex itself, the index, of course. All right. So why did he perform so well against Sisters, Thousand Suns, and Dark Angels? Well, I can tell you right now, right? The Khorne Berserkers. The Khorne Berserkers is actually why he succeeded so well in these matchups, why he didn't succeed well in the Necrons matchups, right? The Necron matchup, you need a little bit more oomph, right? They're more of a challenge to kill with the Berserkers because they have these weird saves, they have these weird toughnesses, and they have these weird amount of wounds and how they interact with the game. And Berserkers just sometimes just don't do enough against Necrons, right? But this is why he did very well against Dark Angels. The Berserkers help you perform or outperform Sisters. You can kill any unit in a Sisters army, including Morven Vol and her unit. What a unit of Berserkers with the Mo attached to it. The Mo is really the creme de la creme of that unit that's really assisting you and all of that. The T Sons, they're helping you out, kill all of those rubrics, helping you kill any Zangors there was in that list as well. For the Dark Angels, Terminators, you really don't want to put, especially with the -1 damage, right? You really don't want to put 8-bound into them unless you're over committing. You want to put Berserkers into them. You want to put lethal hits and sustained hits with Berserkers and fighting first into those Terminator bricks. They're usually running in Terminator bricks of 5. So you want to put all of those Berserkers with the Mo, and on top of that, hit it with Angron or hit it with some 8-bound, some regular 8-bound for those Lacerators, because you're still doing 2 damage for the Lacerators. So that'll all assist you in re-rolling 1s to wound, right? Or re-rolling full wounds, depending where those Terminators are sitting. So That's really what helped him perform so well throughout this event. You know, hopefully he hears this and he gets to comment and corrects me if I am wrong. But my analysis, my opinion in playing World Eaters for as long as I've been playing World Eaters and being a dedicated World Eaters player, right? These are the reasons why. We need to break this down into the nitty gritty and understand that certain units are going to perform better against other armies and lists, and particular lists, right? Because it can all change with the list that you might have. If you have a ton of berserkers, as an example, right? You have a ton of berserkers and you're going into Imperial Knights, you're probably not going to perform very well. You're probably going to get high primaries. You're probably not going to do a lot of killing. You might get lucky in your secondaries, but you're probably not going to destroy a lot of knights. They're going to destroy you very well in return. But if you have a heavy exalted 8-bound list, or just regular 8-bound, you're going to perform very well against Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, things like that. Things with heavy mech, tanks, Imperial Guard, things like that, right? And as you can see, he mostly fought, if not all fought, everything that was infantry based, which was very good and decent matchups for him throughout the weekend. So this is why he performed so well, in my own opinion, and I'm glad that he performed so well. Kudos to him. Hopefully, I can find him one day in social media and pick his brain a little bit on why he kind of skipped the beat with the Necrons, things like that. But he had a very common list. I love me some 8-bound. No Terminators in here. I don't think Terminators are absolutely necessary, but I am currently building a list of Naders with 10 of them. I think that 10 of them is the sweet spot, and not bringing 30 of them. And then still bringing in, you know, your Jackal, still bringing in your Spawn, and still bringing in a ton of 8-bound and exalted 8-bound. So, on to the next list. Congratulations once again to Brian. All right, next up we have Frasier Parry. Congratulations to him as well for bringing out the World Eaters to the WCW and performing so well. So we're going to break down his list, but just like the other one, before we break down his list, we're going to talk about his matchups, his win points, and the results of that actual game. So first round, he played against Tau. He scored 66 points and a win. Second round was Necrons, 74 points and a win. And you're going to see here exactly what I was talking about previously, right? This dude has a ton of 8-bound. I mean, a ton of 8-bound, which is what it takes to beat up on Necrons on most of their lists, right? Grey Knights, 61 points and a loss. I really don't understand this one. We usually pair up pretty well to Grey Knights. Maybe they were infantry heavy. Maybe they, did miss the demos a lot, things like that. Round 4 was Eldari, a 62 loss. So 62 point loss. Astra Militarum, 58 point win. Must have been a lot of bodies. Probably just couldn't get a lot of primary points, things like that. But he still came out with the win. Chaos Knights with a 79 point win. Once again, like I was telling you, you have a lot of 8-bound. You're gonna punch up very, very well. Now, Tau, he had a 54 point loss on this one. Okay. So they must have had a lot of drones, a lot of Pathfinders, things like that. And round 8 was Imperial Knights, 77 points with a win. All right. So let's go ahead and go through his list. It's pretty hilarious. He said, I'm literally here just for the aquarium. Must have been out there either with his family or just himself to enjoy the aquarium. Or maybe it's an inside joke, but quite funny. And for his characters, he only brought Angron and Demo, the Berserker Glaive, of course, and no Lord Invo. And that might have been a problem for him also with no Scout, for the Exalted at least, to take care of those Grey Knights and the Elves right at the beginning of the game. maybe he rethinks this list and says that he does need more scouting to take care of those particular type of lists. He only has 1 unit of jackals, which I can see also could have affected him. He has 1 unit of 10 berserkers with the Mo and then the Rhino, of course, pretty regular and standard. He has 1, 2, 3 units of A-bound, so lots of lacerator damage, right? So that's a lot of attacks right there between those 3 units. And 1, 2, 3 units of exalted. So he maximized on his A-bound, maximized on his exalted, and even had 1 unit of 6 and a unit of spawn as well. Once again, one of the best units in the game, hands down. Okay, so you can really see why he performed and punched up so well against the Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights. He did very well. He performed very well. You can see why he didn't get as many primary points as well, because he only had 1 unit of Jackals, maybe having 2 units of Jackals. And just like Brian, hopefully, Frasier can reach out to me and let me know, correct me if I'm wrong. This is all of my opinion of being at the level that I am and playing this game as long as I've been playing playing World Eaters as well, as long as I've been playing them. I've had my fair share in the sun. Every dog gets its day. I've won my best general overall with World Eaters in a 120-person event. So I've been there to the top, and I've been there in the bottom as well, right? So you can see that the A-bound really helped him out in a lot of scenarios. The Atra Militarum, the Chaos Knights, the Tau, the strange Tau loss, right? Like I said, it might just been a mistake that he made, not having enough Jackals to hold those objective markers, not investing properly without enough scouting with this exalted A-bound. So it could have been a combination of a lot of that. Hopefully he continues to perform well and does even better moving forward. But that's some of the reasons why I break down this list, just trying to help everyone else analyze what is helping us in World Eaters and what is not helping us in World Eaters, what enabled us to be better in our lists, things like that. Should we skew in one direction? I run different lists, right? I always try to be a very neutral, unbiased party because I run a KLOS. I run the KLOS because I like to threaten individuals, even though it's a very expensive piece. But I feel like I know how to use it very effectively and play a different type of World Eaters game that's a little bit more balanced towards all comers lists, things like that. And I think that KLOS really helps. I don't like to skew in one direction where it's only just combat, even though that's the thing that we love the most. But very nice list. Congratulations to Frasier once again. I really like the amount of 8-bound. I am a proponent of loving 8-bound over naders all day. I think that maybe if you can get naders, KLOS, bunch of 8-bound, and a bunch of at least 2 units of Jackals with Angron and Lord Invul in your list, take it. I think that's probably the best combination, the best recipe for World Eaters, but we shall see. We finally started to get some wins in the events and the events back bracket according to Stat Check. So we'll start seeing what's doing and performing the best around right now. All right, and on to the last individual who is a friend of mine, an amazing individual. You got to go check him out. He's an amazing singer as well. He likes to conceal that and not let people know that. I like to embarrass him all the time as often as I can, but he's an amazing country singer, so go check him out. I think that's why he conceals his name. But anyways, congratulations to Brian, of course, Brian Lakor, for going out to WCW and doing such a fantastic job, right? He went out and I think his list, and he's continued to use the same list. We've talked about this list quite some time. You're going to see 2 units in here that share the same data sheet that I've always discussed it with him about why he continues to hold it in his list. But hey, Play what you like, play what you love, whatever you enjoy, continue to use it as long as you're having fun in the world of Warhammer 40K, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. But if you ever want to get on a different level, might be some changes that needs to come in, right? So, one second, I'm sorry, I had to take a sip. So before we go into his list, we're going to go ahead and break down his rounds, his weekend, or actually 4 days of gameplay because they played out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So first round for him was 63 points and a loss for Thousand Suns, which, as you can see probably in this list, is the reason why he lost to Thousand Suns, right? And that's supposed to be one of the boogeymen for us. 54 points for a loss to Orcs Dread Mob. That can be a challenge for us as well. 79 points, a loss to Sisters. 66 points, a loss to Necrons. And we already talked about Necrons and how that can get a little skewy if you have the wrong list. We're going to skip this one. He just had, looks like a free buy. 100 points to Astra Militarum, right? And you can see why he performed very well against Astra Militarum once we break down his list. 78-point win to Necrons, and you'll see the shooting that he has in here that helped him with Necrons, which I think is why I run the KLOS to deal with Necrons. I run a bunch of 8-bound to deal with all the heavy mech, and then hope and pray, that my guns can help me with T-Suns, Dark Angels, and Necrons as well. And then he had a 98-point win against Votan. And Votan is kind of very subpar, especially against us. It's a challenge for them to punch up against World Eaters. So let's break down his list. Named it Worlds Atlanta. So he brought in Angron, Lord Invul, and then Lord Unjuggernaut. So the Lord Unjuggernaut had nothing special. It's just the Lord Unjuggernaut as an additional objective holder, secondary go-getter, right? On top of the spawns and things like that. But he has 2 units of Jackals. There's nothing else in here. There's no Berserkers, just 2 units of Jackals, which is a great start, right? It's a great option. 1 unit of 8-bound. 1, 2, 3 units of Exalted 8-bound. One of them is a fat 6-pack. 2 Chaos Spawn units, which I really like, right? And 2 Forge Fiends. So this is the 2 units, one data sheet shared that I was talking about, the Forge Fiends. I absolutely love the Forge Fiend model. It looks beautiful. I love the amount of damage, strength 10, AP 3, 3 damage flat that the weapon, the ectoplasma cannons can do. I do not like the random amount of shots. It is so inconsistent when I've used it. It really needs a backup. It's like taking 2 Predator Annihilators, Chaos Predator Annihilators, and have a random amount of shots and not being consistent in killing the things that you need to kill. And in this game, it's all about attrition. It's all about luck, and it's all about making sure you take down the targets that you're prioritizing, that you're getting into, right? I love these models. I absolutely do. I think when they hit high, they hit really high, but when they hit low, they hit really low. But I bet you he was rolling really well against the Necrons in here with his Forge Fiends, and that's what really helped him perform against those Necrons. Very well. He had a loss against Necrons as well, but I think that was more matchup dependent. But on the second Necrons, he did very well. He still scored 66 points on that loss, so that's not too shabby. And he scored 78 points in the win, so not far off. It was 12-point difference between a win and a loss. Sounds like a very close game. Hopefully, I can get him on here one day, and he'll actually talk with us all and break down how he utilizes his list and everything he does with his world eaters. But you can also see how it helped him out with Votan, how it helped him out with the guard army, and really put him in position to get a lot of points, especially with that guard army, right? So Forge Fiends can be very helpful when they punch up. They punch up. Chaos Spawn, obviously, one of the best data sheets. I keep on saying, and I'll reiterate for the third, fourth time, Chaos Spawns are one of the best data sheets in the game. Use it. They're amazing. You always want to at least take a minimum of 1 unit of 2. Taking 2 is amazing. They can hold objectives, right? They can do things when you need them to do things on objective markers. Whatever you need to do, they're there to help out. That 8-inch movement, right? +2 if you do that blessing roll helps you out immensely trying to get to where you need to try to get those objective markers. And he has a ton of exalted 8-bound. I just think they need a little bit more support for the exalted 8-bound. I think they perform very well in the game, but they're a risk to take as well. Exalted 8-bound are around 51.8 points per model. You could take a Nader for 36 points a model. And when you look at it defensively and offensively, 8-bound is superior offensively. Naders are superior. Terminators, that are superior defensively. So maybe in this particular list that he's running, he wants to run Terminators instead of running so many 8-bounds, right? Take out one of the spawns. Keep the 2 Jackals. Drop one of the Exalted unit, not the 6-man, the 3-man, and throw in a pack of Naders, right? Of Terminators. See how he performs. Maybe even drop that Lord Unjug. See how those Terminators perform in this particular list. He has guns. He has the support. He's staging. He has the Terminators and the Forge Fiends to support each other. Maybe that'll give him the ability to do a little bit better with this list. So congratulations to him. As always, he actually did come in first place overall in placing. So big kudos to him. Very good friend of mine. And I hope he continues to play very well. He is a staunch, plays all the time World Eaters. I love it. Love this guy. I kept on threatening him over the weekend that I was going to take his World Eaters card because he knows I'm a World Eaters player too. And I always have a World Eaters t-shirt on. So I kept on messing with him and telling him I was going to take his World Eaters card if he didn't start performing better. But that was obviously a joke. We're all out here to have an amazing time, and nothing is ever personal in that sense, right? So this list, hopefully, he figures it out with this list, starts performing a little bit better as well. But obviously, he got a golden ticket to come to this event, so he did something right at one point in time, and hopefully he continues to do great every game that he plays into, because for us as World Eaters players, we all want to do great, except when you're going against me. So no mirror matches. All right. So that's all the 3 individuals that we're going to talk about today. Give me one moment and I'll do my outro. Thank you so much to everyone for participating and watching to the very end. As always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for your support. So these 3 individuals, congratulations to them. Everyone give them an absolute round of applause for taking World Eaters to the largest event in the entire world, only hosted 1 time a year, always in Atlanta, Georgia, and always around in November, just before Thanksgiving, like a week or 2 prior to that. So, coming next year, try to get your golden ticket. However, you need to get your golden ticket. Bring your World Eaters with you, and hopefully you perform even better than anyone else by taking first place. And we see someone finally take World Eaters in first place in something in the largest stage of the world. All right. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this episode of Ops 27. Thank you so much for participating. Make sure for everyone who's watching, there are about 80% of you who are watching right now who are not subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, like the channel, let your friends know, and reach out to me in the comment section and let me know about your games, about how you play, and any thoughts that you might have about World Eaters. Thank you so much. And don't forget, Onslaught Gaming 40K, where victory is just a strategy away. And most importantly, burn, maim, kill, blood for the blood god. Ah!